The name Ford usually brings to mind the clatter of assembly lines and the roar of the Model T. But behind the steel and the smoke of the American Industrial Revolution was a love story of quiet elegance. He was the prince of the world's most powerful car company. She was the niece of Detroit's department store king. Together, Edsel and Eleanor Ford would navigate a life of immense wealth, family pressure, and a sheer passion for beauty that changed the face of American art forever. Welcome back to Forgotten Loves, where today we explore the charmed yet pungent life of Detroit's most beloved couple, Edsel and Eleanor Ford. Edsel Ford was the only child of Henry Ford. He was the heir to a fortune that was almost impossible to calculate. But unlike his father, who was often gruff and stern, Edsel was soft-spoken, artistic, and deeply kind. Eleanor Clay was royalty in her own right. She was the niece of J.L. Hudson, the man who founded Hudson's, the legendary department store that defined Detroit. Eleanor was raised with a sense of duty and a love for the finer things in life. She was the perfect match for the sensitive Edsel. Their story didn't start at a high society ball, but at a dancing school. Eleanor was just 14 years old when she first met Edsel. He was a few years older, and he was instantly smitten. For 5 years, Edsel courted Eleanor. It wasn't a flashy, scandalous romance. It was steady. It was built on a foundation of shared values. While the world around them was changing rapidly, they were each other's constant. On November 1st, 1916, Detroit's two famous prominent families officially merged. You might expect the wedding of the decade to be a massive gala event. But Edsel and Eleanor chose something different. They were married at Eleanor's uncle's home on Boston Boulevard in Detroit. Despite being held in a private residence, the guest list looked like a who's who of American history. Sitting in the pews were Thomas Edison, the man who gave us the light bulb, and Harvey Firestone, the tire tycoon. The ceremony was modest and intimate. Eleanor wore a delicate lace gown, and the couple looked towards a future that seemed limitless. After the I-do's, the newlyweds set off on a spectacular 2-month honeymoon. They traveled across the American West and all the way to Hawaii. When they returned, they began their life together in earnest. They were eventually blessed with 4 children: Henry II, Benson, Josephine, and William. Edsel was a devoted father, often escaping the stress of the Ford Motor Company to spend time with his children and his wife. In the late 1920s, they moved into their forever home, a breathtaking estate in Grosse Pointe Shores, Michigan. Inspired by the Cotswolds in England, the house was a masterpiece of stone, leaded glass, and ivy. But it wasn't just a mansion, it was a sanctuary. Here, they filled the halls with one of the most significant private art collections in the world, featuring works by Van Gogh, Matisse, and Rivera. They weren't just collectors, they were patrons. They donated millions to the Detroit Institute of Arts, ensuring that the wealth created by the city's workers returned to the city's soul. Was their life perfect? Not quite. Edsel faced immense pressure from his father, Henry. Henry was often hard on Edsel, pushing him to be more tough and less artistic. Edsel took the brunt of his father's temper to protect the company and his family. The stress took a toll. In 1943, the world was shocked when Edsel died at the age of 49 from stomach cancer. He was at the height of his career, and Eleanor was devastated. Eleanor never remarried. She spent the next 33 years preserving Edsel's memory and their shared vision. She stayed in their Grosse Pointe home, raising their children to be leaders and ensuring the Ford legacy remained intact. When Eleanor passed away in 1976, she did something remarkable. She left the house and its entire contents to the public. She wanted everyone to see the beauty she and Edsel had built together. Not only can you tour the home and grounds, but the house and grounds have become a popular wedding venue. You can book an elegant wedding with rental fees that vary from roughly $5,000 to over $12,000 plus. What a lovely place to exchange your nuptials. Edsel and Eleanor Ford lived a life of charmed wealth, but their true wealth was their devotion to one another and their community. They proved that even in the world of cold steel and big business, there is always room for a little art and a lot of love. Eleanor inherited approximately $19 million from Edsel. This inheritance included 1/5 share of Edsel's estate, property jointly owned with her husband, and a significant amount of Ford Motor Company Class B stock, representing a nearly 41% stake in the company. Following his death, she became a major shareholder and influential figure in the Ford Motor Company, holding substantial power along with her ownership. By the time of her death in 1976, her estate was valued at $90 million. A significant portion of this fortune was dedicated to charity, taxes, and the preservation of her estate. She was a major donor to the Detroit Institute of Art, including a $1 million donation in 1976 to create the Department of African, Oceanic, and New World Cultures. She and her husband Edsel were major patrons of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, the Detroit Artist Market, and the Henry Ford Hospital. Major portion of the estate was also given to her grandchildren, employees, and various institutions. If you enjoyed this glimpse into a forgotten love, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Forgotten Loves, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next historical romance. Until next time, keep exploring the hidden heart of history.